When the first humans set foot on the vast lands of the Americas, they could not have imagined what would one day emerge from their wandering footsteps. Over countless generations, they learned the rhythm of the land, its rivers and valleys, its forests and deserts, and slowly they began to shape it as it shaped them. From small bands of hunters and gatherers, there grew the first glimmers of civilization, and in time the silent wilderness would echo with the heartbeat of cities. Far to the south along the windblown desert coast of what is now Peru, an astonishing transformation began to unfold. Beneath the scorching sun in a valley carved by ancient rivers stood the foundations of what would become one of the earliest civilizations on Earth. The people who lived here did not carve their names into stone, nor leave behind written chronicles, yet their legacy still rises from the sand. They were the builders of Caral and the founders of the Norte Chico, civilization the oldest known culture of the Americas. Thousands of years ago, the Soup Valley was a dry and unforgiving place, but its early settlers possessed a vision that would turn dust into life. They learned to channel the rivers that flowed from the distant Andes, and they built intricate irrigation systems to feed their crops. This mastery of water was their triumph, for in taming the desert they created abundance. From this abundance came growth, from growth came community, and from community came civilization. Where once stood only barren earth rose monumental mounds, plazas, and pyramids. At the heart of it all stood the grand city of Caral, a place of wonder and innovation that covered more than 160 acres of land. Its centerpiece, the Great Pyramid, known today as Pyramid Maya, towered over the desert like a silent sentinel to human ambition. Broad staircases climbed from a circular plaza to the summit where the elite once stood overlooking their people. Around it, smaller pyramids rose from the dust, each one built with precision and care by thousands of laborers working under the guidance of skilled planners and architects. Caral was more than a city. It was a symbol of what humanity could achieve through cooperation. There were no fortifications, no weapons, no evidence of war. Instead, it was a place of order, of faith, and of prosperity. The people traded cotton and crops for fish from the nearby coast, and their networks stretched across the valleys, uniting inland farmers and coastal fishermen into a single thriving economy. In the ruins of Caral, archaeologists discovered a strange device, a bundle of knotted strings known as a quipu. It was the earliest known record-keeping system in the Americas, a tool to store numbers and information. It hinted at a society organized enough to track resources, taxes, and time. Through such innovations, Caral stood not as an isolated experiment, but as the dawn of civilization in the Western Hemisphere. Centuries passed, and though Caral eventually faded into silence, its spirit of creation would live on across the continents. In the heart of North America, thousands of miles from the deserts of Peru, another people began to shape the land in their own way. They had no pyramids of stone or temples of clay, but they built monuments of earth that would endure for millennia. Along the lush green banks of the rivers of Louisiana, a mysterious people gathered to raise great mounds from the soil. Long before the pyramids of Egypt or the stones of Stonehenge, they built their own sacred landscapes. These mounds were not the work of farmers or kings, but of hunter-gatherers who paused their wandering to shape the earth itself. One of the oldest of these sites is known today as Watson Break, a complex of circular earthworks more than 5,000 years old. The mounds of Watson Break rise gently from the forest floor, forming a perfect ring that speaks of purpose and precision. Yet their true meaning remains a mystery. They were not tombs, nor fortresses, nor simple dwellings. Some believe they were places of ceremony. Others think they marked the turning of the seasons and the path of the stars. Whatever their purpose, they reveal something profound about the people who built them. These were no simple nomads. They understood geometry, they worked together on massive projects, and they gazed into the heavens searching for meaning. Among the stars, later generations would continue this ancient art of mound, building across the Mississippi Valley and beyond. Each new culture added its own layer of complexity and symbolism. The mounds stretched from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico, and though their builders were separated by vast distances, they shared a common vision, a belief that the earth itself could be shaped into a sacred form connecting the people to the divine. Among these early mound builders, two cultures would stand above the rest, the Adena and the Hopewell. Their story begins in the rolling hills of what is now Ohio, where fertile soil and flowing rivers offered abundance and shelter. The Adena were among the first to settle permanently in small circular villages surrounded by fields of maize, squash, and sunflowers. They were farmers, artisans, and traders, bound together by shared rituals and beliefs. the Adena left behind hundreds of earthen mounds scattered across their homeland. Some were simple burial sites, others vast ceremonial centers. One of the most breathtaking of all lies in the quiet valleys of Ohio, the Great Serpent Mound. When seen from above, its shape reveals the body of a coiling snake, its open jaws, devouring a great oval symbol of the sun, or perhaps an egg of creation. Stretching more than 400 meters, the Serpent Mound is not just an earthwork, but a message written across the land, a symbol of the Adena's deep connection to nature, to the heavens, and to the mysteries of life and death. Archaeologists have debated its origins for decades. Some say the Adena built it, others claim later cultures reshaped it. Yet the radiocarbon traces found in the soil whisper of its ancient past, linking it to the early mound builders who once ruled the valleys. Whatever its true age, its meaning endures a silent testament to the artistry and faith of its creators. Over time, the Adena culture evolved, and from their roots, another civilization arose, the Hopewell. If the Adena were the dreamers, the Hopewell were the builders. They took the traditions of mound building and raised them to new heights, crafting vast geometric earthworks that spanned the landscape in intricate patterns of circles, squares, and octagons. Each design was aligned with the movements of the sun, moon, and stars, forming a celestial map etched into the earth. The Hopewell were master traders, their influence reaching from the Rocky Mountains to the Atlantic coast, and from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico. They exchanged copper from the North Mica from the Appalachians and shells from the southern seas. Their trade networks bound the continent together long before roads or nations existed. Within their sacred enclosures, great ceremonies took place, gatherings that united distant tribes in shared belief and purpose. In their villages, the Hopewell lived close to the rivers, their homes built of wood and bark. They hunted deer and fished the streams, but they also cultivated crops and crafted intricate works of art from stone and metal. They carved delicate effigies shaped from obsidian and hammered copper into gleaming ornaments that adorned their leaders and priests. Each artifact speaks of a society rich in symbolism, where art and spirituality were woven into every aspect of life. As centuries rolled forward, the world of the Hopewell began to change. Populations grew, competition for resources intensified, and the great trade networks began to fragment. Some settlements turned inward, focusing on their own survival, while others faded entirely into legend. Yet their legacy endured in the mounds and earthworks that still rise above the fields of Ohio, Illinois, and beyond. To the north, near the shores of the Great Lakes, another spark of innovation had already begun to glow. Here, early Americans discovered veins of copper hidden within the earth. They learned to shape the soft metal with stone hammers, forging tools, ornaments, and weapons in what would become known as the Old Copper Culture. These early miners left behind thousands of pits and quarries, carved into the bedrock by sheer human determination. They understood the secrets of heat and metal long before metallurgy spread across the world. From copper to corn, from stone to soil, every discovery pushed the peoples of the Americas closer to complexity. With each generation, the thread of civilization grew stronger, binding them to their ancestors and to the land that sustained them. The end of the woodland period, the seeds planted by cultures like Caral, the mound builders, the Adena, and the Hopewell, had taken firm root. Across the continents, from the deserts of Peru to the forests of Ohio, human hands had shaped monuments that defied time. They were born not from conquest, but from cooperation, not from war, but from wonder. The rise of these early civilizations reminds us that greatness does not always announce itself with empires or kings. Sometimes it begins in silence with a handful of people who dare to dream of permanence in a changing world. They left no written words, yet their story endures in the mounds and ruins scattered across the land, in the whisper of the wind over the desert, stones of Caral, and in the quiet bend of the rivers where the Hopewell once walked. Their legacy is not just a chapter in history, it is a mirror, reflecting the timeless human desire to build, to create, and to belong. From the dust of the Andes to the green valleys of the Mississippi, the first civilizations of the Americas laid the foundations for everything